I genuinely believe that most people's issues can be boiled down to social media overconsumption in some regard. Now, in the modern era, it's very normal to have Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Be Real, YouTube, all these things on your phone. And it's very normal to, if you're bored, you're scrolling on TikTok. If you're on the bus, you're scrolling on TikTok. If you look around you at the general populace, who are not very clued in on this understanding that this might not be the best thing for them, that's what they spend their time doing. Because, if you don't see the downsides to it and you're just doing the thing that's the most instant gratification and the quickest pleasure, it makes sense that you would do that because it's easy, it's dopamine, it's great, right? But it becomes an issue over the long term for a multitude of reasons that I'm going to go into. So the main thing is that if you could use these apps for that one productive mean, let's say you have Instagram, right? And you wanna see your friends' pictures, right? You could say that's a productive mean. You could say, DMing your friends. You could say that's productive in a way, or that's something you want to keep. That's the positive you see from it, right? Or, you like watching those reels sometimes or something like that. That might be fine, but the issue arises when you lose control. Now, the main issue with that is if you don't have the autonomy in using these apps, then you become like a slave to the algorithm, basically. So if you're not using it consciously and you're using it just how the developers intend you, which is to spend as much time on it as possible and make it as addicting as possible, you're kind of messed up. You're kind of fucked. Because at that point, you've lost control and you start to experience all the downsides of the app itself. For example, let's talk about some downsides of Instagram. For example, the first one is going to be reference points. So your reference point is very simply how you see yourself in comparison to other people. So if you are 5'10" and you're constantly around people who are 5'6", right? You're in Thailand or something like that, and everyone else is 5'6" and you're 5'10", you think you're tall, right? Pretty simple. If you went to the Netherlands, right? I think that their average height is 6 foot or something insane like that. So you're around 6 foot motherfuckers and you're 5'10", then you're gonna think you're short. It's very simple. The reference points that you see become your perception of yourself, right? We understand this concept basically. So on social media, what are the reference points you're seeing? Well, you're seeing people who are better looking than you, making more money than you, happier than you, have a better physique than you. You see an issue with this? Your self-esteem gets so lowered and your self-image gets so lowered because of all these reference points that you start to develop these insecurities about yourself. You start to, go down this negative thought pattern about yourself because of the things you're seeing, which aren't even realistic representations of that person anyways. Because if you've posted on Instagram, for example, you're not posting your shitty selfie that you took or whatever. You're posting the best moment, the best physique picture, the best the best picture, the time when you're having the most fun, when you're doing the most interesting things. You're not posting the highs and lows of life. You're posting this part of life. If it's like this, you're posting that part, that part, that part. Does that make sense? So you're seeing a unrealistic standard, and you're setting an unrealistic standard for yourself because of that perception. That's the first issue. The next issue has to do with the loss of control. So you might learn something on Instagram or TikTok. Let's say TikTok, because we just did Instagram. So let's say you learned something useful on TikTok. This is how you make an SMMA or whatever, right? But then, do you take any action? Do you close TikTok and make some progress in this field? Do you start your YouTube channel? Do you do something in the real world that's going to actually get you some progress? Or do you just save the video, like the video, great, and then keep scrolling? It's obviously the latter most of the time. Most of the time, you have something interesting or something that would be useful, and then you don't apply it, and you just keep scrolling. So it's just not helpful at that point, because you have no control over yourself and over your actions. So even if you did get the value from the app, you can't implement it. So what's the point? Right? And then, you also have this time factor. If you go on TikTok or social media, if you have this on your phone, you can look at your screen time. Like Apple has like your screen time or whatever on your settings. You can see what is my average daily screen time. Most people spend like 7 hours a day, or teenagers spend like 7 hours a day on screens, and probably most of that is social media. So that's an insane amount of time. That's time you could go to the gym. That's time you could meditate, do gratitude, get more sleep, start your business. You could do so much stuff. You could read, you could actually get knowledge, but instead you're just wasting it all on pointless pleasure that doesn't even help you. The reason the pointless pleasure doesn't even help you is, I've talked about this before, so if you understand this, great, but a lot of people don't understand how dopamine works and how your baseline works in relation to these things. It's no wonder depression is increasing. Like, it's very simple once you understand this the way your brain works. It's very, very simple, and it's very easy to understand why all these problems are arising. So basically, you have a dopamine baseline. Some people's baselines are here, some people are here. It is what it is. Now, you have this baseline, which can be thought of as like the amount of dopamine your brain releases, just like static. You're sitting here, that would be the amount it releases, right? Now, it's pretty constant, okay? Then you have spikes in dopamine. So if you watch a TikTok video, you get a spike. If you watch porn, you get a spike. If you happen to do cocaine or something stupid, you get a huge spike. After the spike, what happens is you get a trough. And the trough is bigger and worse in pain than the pleasure you got, if that makes sense. So let's say you watch a TikTok video you liked. There's a dopamine trough, like this. So your baseline goes down after the spike, your baseline goes down and there's a trough. So you feel worse after it, basically. Which is fine if it's in moderation. But if it's not in moderation, if you're constantly doing these spikes, then the baseline's gonna keep lowering and keep lowering and keep lowering. That's why if you spend 7 hours on TikTok or 7 hours playing video games, your seventh game or your 1900th TikTok is not enjoyable. It's not fun for you. You're not enjoying it at all. You're just sat there doing it because it's like slightly more pleasurable, and you're just like trapped in that cycle. So it's kind of fucked. You can also think of it as a wave pool. So like, imagine a pool, like a cement pool, like a square pool, right? And there's water in it, and you have your dopamine baseline. Then the water level is like your dopamine. So it's like your baseline happiness, how good you feel just normally when you're doing nothing. And then you can think of like there being a small pipe, like a little pipe at the bottom that's like putting water in. So it's like putting dopamine in your baseline normally, right? As you're sleeping, as you're it's mainly sleeping, but yeah, as you're sleeping, as you're getting morning sunlight, as you're doing the productive habits, there's a little bit of water going at the bottom, right? You're picturing this pool in your mind. Every time you spike your dopamine in a pleasureful event, right? Then you splash some water. It's like a splash, it's like a ripple effect. So you splash something, and then it ripples out, and some of the water, water from your baseline goes out, and it falls out of the pool. And if you keep, it's fine sometimes, like if you're doing it a few splashes and this water is replenishing it, it's fine. You know, if you're watching 1 hour of YouTube a day and it's long form content or something like that, it's perfectly fine, whatever. But if you're spending 6 hours on TikTok, if you're watching porn, and you have too many spikes, too fast, too many ripples, then a lot of water is going to fall out of your tub, and that's your dopamine baseline, so it goes lower and lower. And then you feel the effects: depression, low motivation, sadness just in general, and you just feel terrible after a while. And that's what I want to save you from by understanding these concepts and actually taking action, like I said, to, you know, think about these apps and think, okay, maybe I shouldn't have TikTok, and delete TikTok for yourself. Maybe I shouldn't have Instagram, and, you know, make that decision for yourself. It's not up to me, but just now that you have the information, you can make an educated decision. And this can be applied to not just Instagram or TikTok or, you know, the basic ones, or porn or whatever. This can be applied to pretty much anything, like any activity that you think is useful or harmful to you. Yeah, so I just want you to understand this information. And if you have any other questions, coaching's down below. If you want ways I implement it in my own life or any questions like that, yeah, have a good one. Peace.